I'd like to welcome you to another edition of the Artful Painter Live. This is my third attempt today to make this work. It's all operator error. It's not really technology related. It'd be easy to blame it and nobody would know differently, would they? But the reality of it is I just haven't got mastered how to use this software. But I want to do it because it's kind of fun to be able to do this live. And maybe in the future, I'll have some folks actually join me on the live stream. First up, I would like to thank all the viewers, subscribers to the Artful Painter channel. The last I looked, there was 920 subscribers, or 921, something like that. And I'm very grateful for that. That's fantastic. I really appreciate you taking the time and investing your time into watching my channel. And hopefully I can deliver more videos in the future, but we'll see how it goes. It's been very busy. The last time I did a live stream or even published a real video was back in February. So that's been almost 4 months ago. But a lot's been happening personally. I had an exhibit. I was invited to participate in a show at our local cultural arts center here in Douglasville. And that was quite an honor to be asked to do that. I think there's a total of 6 artists that was invited to participate. All are great artists. It was nice to be in good company like that. But my paintings, what I needed to do was come up with the theme. Let me back up. The theme for the Cultural Arts Center show for this month is Summer in the South. And I decided, I really didn't have a whole lot of paintings that would depict summer in the South. I had a couple of older paintings, such as a beach scene and some water lilies, which could be any time. But both of those feature water. And I thought, that's the key. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to unify everything that I show with water. Because you think about it, summer in the South, that's swimming, that's fishing, that's camping on the lake, kayaking down the river. All of these things are common here in the South. Water is a central part of it. It helps you cool down. So I created 12 additional paintings, and that's one reason why I didn't produce any videos. I was spending my time on that. So I created 12 paintings, all featuring water and tying in with that theme, Summer in the South. They're all done on 12 by 12 inch hardboard panel and mounted in floater frames. And they are now on exhibit till the end of June. I'll be picking them up at the end of June there. So, but that was exciting. It was fun to do. It was hard. It was really hard. But the reason I did I'll tell you what, let me show you a couple of photos from that. Let me go to my keynote here. So that's one of my large paintings there at the Cultural Arts Center. It's a very beautiful place. I like the venue. It's really nice. It's right across the street from the high school that I graduated from so many years ago. So that was my large painting. A lot of people really enjoyed seeing that. I got a lot of good feedback. And that's one of my large water lily paintings. So you can see everything is water. I don't have any photos of the other paintings. I'll have to do that in another video. So that is what I've been one of the things that I've been working on. The other is I've been recording a few episodes. I haven't done as many as I'd like of the Artful Painter podcast. So the Artful Painter podcast, I have 3 episodes. One should come out tomorrow and 2 more hopefully by mid next week. So I have one by Brian Rutenberg. He is an abstract, he doesn't call himself an abstract painter, but most of us, that's what we would say. But he has a very interesting definition of what abstract painting, abstraction is. He says it's a painting. Abstraction is a process, not a style. And so we'll get into that. But I really like his work. It's quite beautiful. Also, one of my favorite artists is Chmiel. I met him back at the Booth Museum last year, March of last year, during the Plein Air Painters of America workshop. He was one of the instructors there. So fascinating artist, very fascinating artist. We talk about his love of gardening and how it influences his paintings. It's just a masterful painting, one of the painters out there, one of the best. And then I turned my attention to a local artist here in Georgia, lives in Newnan. His name is David Boyd Jr., Kent Mullinex of the Booth Museum of Western Art, Booth Western Art Museum. He suggested that I contact him, so he introduced us, and I'm glad I did. It was a great conversation, beautiful artwork that he does. He's a kind of an urban, plein air type landscape artist, really beautiful work. So we talk about that. He also has his own gallery. There's a family-run gallery in Newnan in the old downtown square. So we talk about the joys of running a gallery as well as being an artist. So pretty cool episode. So look for that. Brian Rutenberg, Chmiel, and David Boyd. Meanwhile, this is not art related, but before I started taking up learning painting on a regular basis, I was really into video and photography. And I started a podcast about 10 years ago called, then it was called the Digital Convergence Podcast. Now it's called the Artful Camera. But I have not been producing very many episodes. I think the last one I did was in October of last year. But last week I did do an episode where Chris Fenwick and I talk about the Mac Pro, the new Mac Pro that Apple announced, as well as producing podcasts and some other interesting topics. So if you care to listen to that, it's available. By the way, both of these podcasts, The Artful Camera and The Artful Painter, you can find them on my website. That's the easiest way to locate them, carlolson.tv. Also, they're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I think The Artful Painter is available on radio.com, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and there's probably a few other places out there. I've got them going to multiple destinations. And interestingly enough, with the Artful Painter, I also release that or publish it on my YouTube channel. Now, this has got some pros and cons. I have several people who prefer to listen to this podcast by going to YouTube, and that's okay. There's no video associated with it, so it's just a static image, but you can hear the interview. Some people don't like that, and so every one of them just about gets one or more thumbs down. It's regrettable. I hate the thumbs down feature in YouTube. It's very rude in my opinion, but such as it is, you got to have thick skin with it. But no matter how I label these videos, I'll say it's audio only. It's this is a podcast, audio only podcast, and for whatever reason, people just do not read. So anyway. So I get thumbs down on that, but I'm going to keep publishing them on my channel because so many of you do actually listen to the podcast that way instead of using Apple Podcast or some other podcast listening app. Let's see what else has been going on here in the studio. I got to look at my notes. They're up on my marker. Oh, I know. I need to... So this has been fun. Let me grab them real quick. I'll show you in just a second. Okay. Let me switch to the camera here and get off the screen. Okay. So back in January, I went to a Scott Christensen demo, and I've mentioned that before in a previous live stream on this channel. And when I was there, I saw him use a sketchbook that was kind of like this. It was about this size. I don't know if this was exactly this size, but he used this craft paper, which has it's a tan appearance. It's tan. It's kind of speckled. You see the fibers in it. It's a thick 80-pound, they call it cover stock. So it's thicker than paper. And the neat thing about this is it creates a nice middle tone. So you start with a middle tone. So you add the highlights and and shadows, and this pretty much fills it in. It's a great surface to sketch on. You can use a Sharpie and it won't bleed through. You can use, I have the micron pens that I use. I also can paint on this, and that's what Scott Christensen did. He had a number of paintings, studies, little exercises where he's working out problems and that sort of thing. So this paper is great for it. Now, by the way, now if you do paint on this, I mean, you can paint on it without doing anything, but it'll eventually disintegrate, right? Because of the acids in the oil. So what I do is I've got, I'll just put a thin coat of gesso, acrylic gesso on it. It's not really gesso. It's gloss or matte medium. That's what it is. Or you could use something like GAC 100, GAC 100 from Golden. Put that on there. It's dry in about 10, 15 minutes, and you're good to go. You could prepare several pages in advance. So when I saw Scott Christensen's notebook, I decided, I wanted to do that too. He did mention the paper that he was using. He said, they buy it in bulk and then they cut it and have it bound, I guess at like a Office Depot or Office Max or something like that, or Staples. So they do that. But, I had my own equipment where I could punch the holes. I can punch square holes. And I have a binding machine, a little one. It's a hobbyist machine, but I can do these 2-to-1 ratio wire bound, this black wire here. So that makes a really nice notebook. And using cardstock, chipboard. I can create my own book, and that's what I did. So I started experimenting with this. I had several people start to ask me, "Hey, could you make me one too?" I said, "Well, yeah, sure." Now I experimented with different types of papers too. I didn't use just the paper that Scott Christensen used. I used some that was available from Michaels and Hobby Lobby and off of Amazon. So I experimented with a number of different papers. This is my favorite one here. It's the smoothest. It's the thickest cardstock that's available. And this is the one that Scott Christensen uses. So anyway, I decided I'd try some others just to see. This stuff's expensive. But I thought, well, let me try the others and see if it will work. But as it turned out, this still ended up being the best. But because several people started asking me for it, I decided, well, I'll make a few of these. I'll put them up on an online store and make them available. I'll sell them. I'm certainly not going to get rich off of these things, but they're fun to make. And I got whimsical with it. I started using, I would make my own custom covers from this Italian paper prints that's from Cavallini Papers. They've got some really nice retro reps, so I used that. So I made different sizes. So where did I put it? And you'll see them on the store. I'll show that to you in a minute. Right there. So this is a 6x12. 6x12. This is actually one of my favorites here. It's large, but this is great for working in the studio. Another size that I really like, I call this the analog Instagram, is this 6x6 inch. And this is by far my most popular one. This is the one that most people bought. So this is the one I get the request the most for. So it's 6x6 inches. It's a nice compact size. but yet it's a large enough to work on, and it's that square format that you normally associate with Instagram. So I've got several of those. People like the bug ones. And I've experimented with other sizes, such as this. That's made from scrap material. I like this size too. It's very portable. It's a nice horizontal format, like so. So this is, I think, it's about 3.25 by 7.5 inches in size, and then a slightly larger one, which is this right here. This is a nice size as well. So I've been experimenting with that. It's a lot of fun, and you're welcome to buy one if you like, or if you want to know how to make one, I can show you that in a future video. Let me show you my website. So what you do is go to carlolson.tv and then go to Sketchbook Store. And there you can see some of the sketchbooks I have available. And I'll be making a few more different covers. I've got a lot of different paper I like. I've got some ideas for it. So it's just a nice little touch to have these different designs on here. By the way, the price includes shipping, but they're all one of a kind. I've made each and every one of these. By the way, the large 6x12, I use a triple thick chipboard for the back, and because it's wire bound, what's really nice about it, it lays completely flat. You can fold the cover back, and it lays completely flat on the table. It's very easy to handle. But these things they're not light. They've got some heft to them because they're made out of the cardstock. All right, so that's my sketchbooks. Something else that I've started doing, you'll notice on my website I have a bookstore. So I've ended up somehow or another with duplicate copies of books in my library. Sometimes I'll get the books in bulk, and I might end up with a duplicate of something I already have. So if you would like to round out your library, you can also purchase a book from my bookstore. And the price also includes shipping. One of my favorites here is this Charles M. Russell Word Painter. This is a fantastic book. I love Charlie Russell. There's a couple of his paintings at the Booth Western Art Museum. Really neat to see. But this book is, I think it's pretty much every single letter that he ever wrote where he included art in it. And that's why it's called Charles M. Russell Word Painter, letters from 1887 through 1926. And this one was edited by Brian Dippy, who is an expert on Charles Russell. So it's a beautiful book. It's just loaded with beautiful illustrations and narrative on each one of those letters. It's a hefty volume. It's huge. But this one is in great condition. It does have an inscription in it. It was a gift to someone. This is always, when you get these books and they've got this nice little note to someone, it was given to a gift, and I have the book. It kind of makes me wonder. I don't know. Maybe it was an estate sale. The person died and moved on. I don't know. Or maybe the person that got it just didn't appreciate what it is. But it's always interesting to see those inscriptions. I actually love to get a book, used books that have inscriptions in it, because it gives a bit of it's a bit of provenance to the book. Some books can be quite collectible because of that. But anyway, be sure to check out my store, the bookstore, on carlolson.tv/bookstore. Another great book here is The Art of Landscape Painting, a Master Oil Painter's Approach to Composition, Design, and Light. This is by Paul Strycek. It's a fantastic book. I have also a book by Kevin McPherson. It's called Landscape Painting Inside and Out. Somehow or another, I ended up with 2 copies of that. I think this one, I have a hardcover copy and a paperback copy. And the one that I'm selling here is paperback, but it's in great condition. It's really good condition. So you need to round out your library and you want to support the Artful Painter podcast, this is a great way to do it. Okay. So that's what's been happening on my website. Let's go back to my camera. Oh, one other thing that I've been making that I made a couple of months ago. I found these black cigar boxes at a local antique store. So I thought, ooh. And they were really cheap. I think this one was like $6. And I thought, whoa, that'd make a great paint box. So I bought it. I spray painted it because I didn't want the cigar. I don't support smoking and that sort of thing. I don't do that. And I don't want to give any illusion of thinking that I endorse smoking and cigars. But the box is pretty cool. So I painted it a solid black. And I took the little brass hinges off and I put these friction hinges on here, which would allow me to open this up, and it would, when you're painting on it, it won't bend, it won't close. So it takes quite a bit of friction to close the top and open it. And then what I did is I took Velcro from Home Depot, just taped it on the back of the board here. So you can see these are the Velcro strips, and I just put a little square of Velcro on the back of a canvas or painting board or whatever. And I tried all kinds of mechanisms to make this work, but this ended up being really the best. It's cheap, it works, it's solid, and if I center it in there just right, I think this is a 6 by, what size is this thing? I don't know. I can't remember. It looks like a 6 by 8. It's a 6 by 8, and that's what it is. And it fits perfectly in here. And it won't go anywhere. It's once that Velcro's strong, so it'll hold it in, and then I can close it up and keep it in there. I have to line it up just right. But I tried all kinds of things. I did little spring clips, and I tried magnets and all kinds of things, but nothing really worked. Well, let's see. I got a message here. Let's see. How do you store the canvas panels after painting on location? You know what? That's a good question. Typically what I'm using with my traditional paint box, and you can see it there. I'm spatially disoriented. There it is. That's a Sienna Pochade box or paint box. And I have a Sienna paint carrier with that. So that is something that I use. It holds 4 9x12s, which is the size I normally use when I'm using the Sienna. It's just a great size. I like 9x12. A lot of other painters do too. But I use a Sienna box. It's custom made for that. It also has an insert for 8x10. Or you could just make something. You can use a cardboard box. I save lots of boxes. So like with this, to me, what I'm doing here is I've got one canvas in there. And that's about all I'm going to do. I can go ahead and put my paint. I've got a piece of plastic in here. And I've got gray paper under the plastic, so I can easily lift this out to clean it. And I go ahead and put the paints on here, close it up, go on a little hike, and keep the painting on there. Close it back up when I'm done and go home and then take it off. So I'm not doing 3-4 paintings at a time. I'll just do 1 or 2 if I'm using this. But with the Sienna back there, I might do 2 or 3 paintings in one go, and I use the Sienna paint carrier. I have, if you look at my video, I got to remember what video, but anyway. Yeah. Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Arts of Space. Thank you for commenting on that. Yeah, it's a cool little box, and I've got several others. I'm going to make these. I'm going to put these on my store too if you want to buy one of these. I have no pressure. I'm not trying to hawk things, but I got another thing that I did to this. I don't know that I'm going to do this with other paint boxes, but I did put a T-nut in here so that I can mount it to a tripod. But it's so light. Really, my intent was just to be able to throw it in a backpack and pull it out, and you can just hand hold the thing. It's not super heavy. And if you use like a limited palette, you can go ahead and squeeze out the paints that you want on there. You only need one or two brushes. You could put that, you can take that in there as well, and you're good to go. So got one other thing I want to show you before I end this live stream. I'm switching gears big time. Not too long ago, I bought a book. I love to buy books about art and art history, about artists, and about how to do art. And this one is quite the find. I saw it on eBay. I think it was about $10. Might have been 15 with shipping. But I couldn't resist because the publication date of this book, well, let me switch over to the slide, okay? I want to show you this. So the book is called The Art of Painting in Oil and in Fresco. I guess that was a thing, I suppose. And the subtitle is Being a History of the Various Processes and Materials Employed from Its Discovery by Hubert and John van Eyck, I don't know, to the present time. So, and it's translated from the original French treatise by JFL. I'm going to really butcher that one up to Merimee. I don't know. Anyway, but this edition is an English edition, okay? And it was published in London. Look at the publication date, 1839. Now, I'm not sure if that means this book was actually printed in 1839, but this book, if it was printed in 1839, it means it's 180 years old. But it gets better. It gets better. Look at this. This is, you see this corner here? This corner is a misprint. It's a miscut when it was printed 180 years ago. Publishers are still doing this. I have bought brand new books that have miscuts on the corners like this, and they'll be folded over. So, but I usually take those back and get a return on them and exchange them out for one that's published correctly. But this one here, there's no return on it, right? So to me, it's kind of a cool find. So there's a little defect there, but the book overall is in pretty good shape. But here's the thing that's really fascinating to me. When I bought the book and opened it up, here's the inscription. It says, C.W. Tice, from his much obliged friend. And I later found out that this right here, GEO, is that must have been a common thing. People would abbreviate their names. So it's George Blackman. And notice the location and date. It says Newburgh, July 9th. I think that's the 9th, July 9th, 1846. Let me do some math on that. Let's see how old that is. 2019 at the time of this recording, minus 1846. It's 173 years ago. This was 173 years ago. Now, I didn't know. I know. Arts of Space says, wow, so much history to this book. You would not believe what I found out. So C.W. Tice, let me get my notes up here. I should have had this up before I got into this discussion. But C.W. Tice, I looked that up. There was two clues, his name and the location, Newburgh, which I assume was New York. Well, sure enough, New York, C.W. Tice was an illustrator, an artist, and an author. He wrote and illustrated the book History of the Town of Newburgh, which was published in 1859. Can you believe that? So he was and I looked at some of the prints there. It says he was a good illustrator, and it's just, I don't know, it's just incredible. Brickzar, that's my brother. There's another CW. Who's that? Another CW, yeah. Yeah, I get you. Okay, C.W. Tice. And then, so that mystery of who this gift was given to, I think was partially solved, but I still didn't know who Geo Blackman was. Well, it turns out one of my followers on Instagram is James Williams. He's an actor, and he's located here in Atlanta. And so he contacted me privately and said that he had found out something about this Mr. Blackman. There were some relations with his family somehow. I forget the exact details, but it turns out that his name is George C. Blackman. He was born in Newburgh, and hence that was probably why he had this connection with C.W. Tice in Newburgh. So they knew each other, and they were friends. He was a medical doctor, an MD. He was a surgeon. He studied and worked in London and Paris. And evidently when he was in London, he bought this book as a gift for his artist friend, C.W. Tice. Could not believe this. And then Blackman, George Blackman, he when the Civil War broke out, he was appointed a field surgeon, and he wrote one of the most prominent leading books on military field surgery. It was an authoritative guide for the time. And so with that one little $10 purchase, I was able to come across and touch this bit of history here. So I thought it was really fascinating to find this. And it's a book about art. The reason I bought it was because it was a book about art, and it was old. I knew that much, but here it is. It's there's a story behind it, and I would love to have known these guys. But anyway, and I appreciate James Williams for reaching out to me on this, because when I did the initial Instagram post on this, I really didn't know much about any of these folks. But what a small world to have somebody that does know that. So it is quite an amazing find. Yeah. So I think that's going to be, let's see what else I got going on here. I think that's all. Oh, there is something else about this book. Maybe someone else will know. What is a pen doing in the book? What is that? Is that something that people did? What did it mean? Why did they do it? I don't know. I don't know why it's in there. And then think about this. Here is a book that's 180 years old, possibly. And it has 2 color charts. It's got color in it. Sometimes you look at the Amazon reviews and somebody buys an old book, it's a classic, and they'll say, oh, it doesn't have any color pictures in it. I think, oh, it's an old book. I mean, what do you expect? But this one, it's got color pictures in it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Maybe they had to read to that part of the page. I don't know. About the pen. Yeah. Maybe that is what it was. It was kind of a bookmark. I don't know. I've never seen that practice before, but there was that little pen in there, and it looks old. I don't know if it's as old as the book, but who knows? Anyway, that's my little interesting find for my library there. If you have an interesting find, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. One last thing I'll share with you. This will help on the podcast. I'm hoping to put this to good use. A few weeks ago, I entered a contest, which I did not win. I seem to be really good at not winning contests, but that's okay. I did get something for it, though. The folks that hosted that contest is Rode Microphone. And because I did enter, they sent me this, the SC6L mobile interview kit. What this will allow me to do is to take this, my iPhone, and go, like if I go, say, to the booth, Western Art Museum, and there's an artist there. I've done interviews at the booth, but I just use the mic in the iPhone. But this will be even better because it comes with 2 lapel mics. So I'm going to use this to do future interviews. Thank you, Rode. I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate you joining me in this live stream. It's been fun. And I appreciate the participation, Arts of Space and Brickzar. Be sure to check out Brickzar. He has got if you like Legos, that's the place to go. It's I don't collect Legos. I didn't even play with Legos as a kid. I know it's kind of weird, but my brother did. And so he became the leading expert in Legos and collecting Legos. And even if you don't like Legos, his videos are entertaining, and he's really done a great job on YouTube. So let's check it out. Check him out. I'll update this video so you'll have a link to it after it gets finished publishing and all that. So, all right, thanks. Appreciate you being on. We'll see you later. Ciao.